Hello Reborners, my name is Karen and this is Making Reborn Dolls with Karen. We're back with Ashley and she looks like this now. She's a little bit darker. She looks like maybe her red will show through when she gets her layers. So we're going to get started on her. I've laid out all my sponges because they're just looking terrible. They're just very, very stained up and very saturated, and when you try to use them you get too much paint on your fingers. So I'm throwing most of them out and getting new ones. That's why we buy sponges, so we can do that. I use them over and over again. Some of the ones that, like this one, that had, I was using to dab it off with, I can rip this part off and now use it to put paint on with. It's fine. But some of them are just too bad. Like these two are pretty bad. I'm gonna throw them away. This one's still pretty okay, we'll save it. This one I've already cut the top off of it to use. This one's too bad. I'll take one of these and make it into the new red sponge. So there we have it. We have plenty sponges for putting paint on. We need a few for taking it off. I like to use these as part of my removal method because they don't get so saturated so quick. Somehow they just work differently. And let's see, save that one. Okay, we're going to use this one for, and that one, and one more for skin color. Then for blush we'll use that one. This one is, we're going to throw that one away. This one and this one. And then for the red blush, we'll use this one, and this one. That way each one has 3 sponges. That's pretty good. Some of these colors are pretty dark, so that's the red. That's the warm blush, and this is going to be the skin color. Okay. Some of these colors are pretty pigmented, I guess is what they call it, and they quickly soak up the sponge, and some of them not so much, so they last a little longer. But I like to use my sponges over and over again until they're just too bad to use again. Then that's, I'd say $3 to $10, depending on how many coats of paint you put on, how much paint you put on your sponge, how dark your paint is. It's just going to be a preference. Whenever you feel like it's too dirty, you're just going to know it and you're going to just throw it away. I'm going to try to adjust this a little bit where you can see a little bit better. That's better. It may fall forward, but we hope not. Sometimes they do. It's just barely just teetering on the table. I'm going to try to, yeah, at least have a paper towel. At least kind of handy. Yeah, I thought I had one. Oh well, I'll get another one. I use a lot of paper towels. Maybe I should. I did at one time use rags, but I was just washing rags constantly. So I switched to paper towels. Okay, here we go. This color is called 05. It is a flesh color. I'm explaining this in case this is the first video you've watched of me painting it all, so you'll know the colors I'm using. The flesh colors range from 08 being the lightest all the way down to 02 being the darkest. And I know this looks very, very dark to you and you're thinking, oh, she's going to make an ethnic baby. No, this is going to make a white baby. Believe it or not, it's not that dark. I don't like the 08 because it's too pinky colored. I don't want to make a pink baby. I want to make a baby that has color. I want their color to be deep and rich and not look like you barely put any paint on. So anyway, we're going to start by brushing it on to the places where we think the sponge might not can reach, and that's the entire face almost. All the features of the face, under the chin. We do the ears, around the ears, all the back of the ears and around the ears and under the ears. And then we do the same thing over here. We just go around the ear and behind the ear and on the back of the ear and underneath the ear, and then this little groove that goes around the back of their neck. And then the face is pretty much done, but still I'm going to sponge it because I don't want the brush marks to show. And there are going to be some crevices where the sponge will not reach, and that's okay because we got it with the brush. But we want to get every spot we can with the sponge. So that's why I do the brush first and then sponge over it. I want to have the sponge effect instead of the brush effect on my doll. Now she's very, very wet. She's way, way too wet. We can't leave her like that. She'll be splotchy. So we're just going to dab it off with this sponge. I'm using the hard, dense one. These are similar to the teardrop shape ones you get at like Walmart to put on makeup with. And these are makeup sponges. And this is going to dab off most of the wet. But it's going to leave behind the color, don't worry. You can automatically tell she's got darker skin tone now than she had before. It's not going to take it all off at all. See, it's not even taking very much off. And we're just going to do this around and try to get all the super wet, puddly looking stuff off of her. We don't want her to look rashy. Now we're going to take our cleaner sponge. Now this is more airy and light. This is a Swisspers Jumbo Cosmetic Wedge. And the only place I can find them currently is Amazon. So I don't know if there's a local store. We don't have any local stores here that carry them. But in big cities, they probably do. We live in a very small town, and we have a Walmart. We don't have anything like a Michael's or any of those stores that, you know, Hobby Lobby or any of those stores that might carry them. But, or possibly a makeup store does, I don't know. But this sponge isn't going to hardly pick up any paint at all. It's going to mostly dry her a little bit because we're going to put 2 coats on her. This is called stacking layers. That's what I call stacking layers. We only ever want to stack the same color on top of the same color. We don't want to move to the next color without baking first. And I don't recommend stacking layers for beginners. Just go on and bake your doll and then put a second coat on them. It's a little bit different. You'll see a difference when you're doing it that way. But I'm trying to minimize the number of segments I'm making in my video so I don't have to download 17 or 18 different episodes because I did every single layer separately. Because every time you stop the camera, it makes another cut in the video, and because it doesn't pause. Anyway, we're going to set her down and give her a little minute to dry while we do her arms and her legs. And we're going to pretty much do the same thing to them. I'm going to paint her feet because you can't get the the sponge down in all these little crevices on the feet. We want to make sure we get the whole entire foot painted real good. And then we're going to sponge it off too, just like we did the rest of her. Real good. Now remember, if you have to get more paint out of your jar, you're going to need to mix your paint because you can see that it's separating already. It's darker down here than it is at the top because the paint and the paint thinner separate from each other. And it looks like a lot of paint that's in my jar, but it's really Exodus oil. There's Exodus oil in there, and there's also thinning medium in there. So it's not all paint. So you won't want to put that much brown paint in there. It would just be too dark. The paint comes in little jars, either this size or this size, and you just put however much until it's as dark as you want it. And I decide that by how it looks on the doll. That's why I recommend everybody have what I call a test kit, or a trial kit, or a practice kit. We're going to mix this up again because we're going to put a little more on our sponge. See how it's already coming down into the sponge deeply. You're going to get dirty fingers. And don't feel bad if you need to stop and wash your hands. It's perfectly fine to do that. I keep paper towels. Sometimes I even keep baby wipes. Sometimes I'm out and I don't get any more for a while, which is what is now. It just amounts to me going to the bathroom and getting another pack out. I keep them in my bathroom because I buy that big box from Walmart, the Parents' Choice baby wipes. So I always have baby wipes and I don't have to constantly be trying to remember to get baby wipes. some things I just don't think of when I'm shopping. I don't think of baby wipes very often. I like to have them close by to wipe my fingers with, and I have a little container to put them in, but I don't know. I guess I'm lazy. Anyway, we're going to dab this really, really good. We want to get the parts to be as dry as possible before we put our second layer on. So we're going through these each piece separately, and we're going to try to remember the order we did them in. We did the straight leg first. I mean, pick a pattern. Do both the legs and then both the arms, or the other way around, or something like that, and lay them where you know which piece you did in what order, because you want them to be as dry as possible when you put the next layer on. So you need to know which one you did first. It's going to be the driest piece probably. I do have a heat gun that I use for drying the parts, but it's so noisy. A lot of times I don't use it. If the doll looks dry enough to me, I won't use it. Now, if it still looks shiny or visibly wet, then it's not dry enough. They kind of look shiny when they're wet. It's just the water, the fluid. There's no water in here. When I say water, I usually mean paint thinner. When I say water it down, I mean thin it with paint thinner, because on heat set paint we do not use water. No water goes into it. It's always paint thinner or mineral spirits. I've heard of people saying they use turpentine. I wouldn't use it, but that's what they say they use. But they make several different kinds. Gemini makes one. I use Gemini paint from Bountiful Baby. Some people use Beatrice Clementi paint. Some people use Irresistibles. There's a lot of different kinds of heat set paint. And most of them have their own solvents that you can get. And varnishes and stuff. But I don't like some of them. I've been through a lot of different kinds of paint, and some of them I like better than other ones. But as far as paint thinner, to me, it's paint thinner. It's just paint thinner. This paint thinner that I use is made with mineral spirits. It says it right on the, I don't know if that means there's mineral spirits and something else in it, or if it's just mineral spirits. I don't know. But when they're out of the paint thinner, I do get the mineral spirits. And I have noticed no difference whatsoever in the way they perform. So it doesn't matter. You can use either one. But I get mine at Walmart. You get a whole gallon for what you get, whatever this holds, 16 ounces maybe. That's about what you get in that Mona Lisa or that Gemini that's going to cost you $14 or $15 or $16 or maybe even $18 for that little tiny bottle. And it's not special. It's really not. They say it's odorless, but I bought it one time because they said it was odorless. And I swear it stunk. I swear it did. It smelled, to me, almost, yes, it was slightly less stinky than what you get at Walmart, but it was almost as stinky. And that's supposed to be odorless? I don't know. For that price, I expect it to not have any odor at all. And for the same $14, I get a gallon at Walmart. And it's, yes, it stinks, but here's what I do. I minimize the smell. See, I have this cup of paint thinner right here that I used to wash my brush in. It's way too much. It's what was left in the bottle. I wanted to throw the bottle away, so I poured it all in there. But it's been sitting there for a week, maybe. And I can't even smell it anymore. The smell is gone. And that's because it evaporates out, at least partially. Yeah, probably somebody coming in from outside can smell it a little bit. They'll go, what's that smell? But it won't be like, oh my goodness, it's paint thinner. You know, it won't be that bad. I always tell people, get you a container, whatever it is. I use these little mustard and ketchup things you use for barbecues to put my paint thinner in. And I just fill it up. You can put it outside on your porch, in your garage, in a room you're not using, and open the window, and let it sit for a while. And a lot of that smell will evaporate right out of it. And it will be much less stinky I mean, how do you think they probably get that other paint thinner to be less stinky? It is paint thinner. And so they must do something like that. I think that's what they probably do. Because if they cut it with something like water, it's not going to work. So they can't do that. So I got to thinking about it one time. Why is it that when I first open up the paint thinner, it stinks real bad? Now I seal it back up, I do. But a lot of it evaporates just when you open it up. The smell just whoosh, right out. You open it outside. And then I pour some in there and I leave that sit outside for a while. 2-3 hours. And don't put it in direct sun. I wouldn't put it in direct sun. I don't know why, I just wouldn't. I don't think it would catch fire from direct sun, but it is flammable. But I just put it out there, let it sit for a while. After I think it doesn't stink all that much, I'll test it out. I'll actually smell it. I don't just breathe it in or anything. I just go to take a sniff, And if it smells less stinky, I go, okay, now put the lid on, I'll bring it in. And then as I'm using it, it doesn't smell as bad. That's what I do. But, I mean, it's paint thinner. It's going to smell. I don't care what kind you get, it's going to smell. Even the Mona Lisa smells, and that's a highly recognized brand. And it says odorless on it. And most people say it's much less stinky, and it is. It's much less stinky, and it's much more expensive. I'd rather put up with a little bit of stink. It's not that bad after you let it evaporate. And I'm not going to say you really become used to it, because you really don't. I can leave for the whole day and come back, and if I was just getting used to the smell, I would immediately smell it when I came in the door, like you do an air freshener. But I don't, because it doesn't have hardly any scent to it anymore. Try it and see if I'm not right. Just buy they have small bottles. They have a quart. Just try one, a quart, and see how you like it. And if you don't like it, don't buy it anymore. I'm just trying to save you some money. Okay, we're going to do her over again now. She looks dry. She feels powdery. When they're dry, they feel powdery, kind of. It's like what you put on them is dry now, and it feels like a powder. So we're going to do her again. Get her all nice and gussied up with this color. You're not going to see a lot of difference with just 2 coats of this color. You can put more coats, but the more coats of paint you put on your doll, I know a lot of people put many coats on their doll. But they do what they call washes, and I'm doing regular paint. Washes are super thin indeed. They hardly have any pigment in them, and they put multitudes of washes on their dolls. I don't understand why they want to do that. I'm just a different kind of animal, I guess. I don't follow what other people do. I follow my own way. And if I can't wrap my head around it, I don't think I'm gonna do it, because it's not making logical sense to me. And I don't understand why you'd want to put 20 or 30 washes on your doll when you can go with about 6 coats of paint and be finished and have a beautiful doll. All I want's a pretty baby. I don't do modeling because I think it's ugly, but modeling is part of what they do. They'll take 5 or 6 colors, including yellows and greens and blues and purples, and model their doll with all those colors. And according to what people have told me, it starts to look like a skin tone when they do that. But when I did it, I was just becoming very frustrated, because when I did it, all I saw was a splotchy, multicolored, almost rainbow doll. And it wasn't becoming any sort of a skin tone I liked. And I ended up stripping that doll and redoing it, because I don't like that splotchy skin. It's not pretty to me. I want a pretty doll. I want my doll, it still looks real enough to me. Babies aren't always modeled, so part of the time they just have normal looking skin. I want to capture that moment when they just have normal looking skin. If your sponges are getting too wet, dab them on your paper towel. It'll take a lot of the wet out of them. Okay, that's 2 coats. She's got 2 coats on. And you can see the difference in her rim here and her skin tone here. But after she bakes, everything gets lighter. Remember that. You may not can tell any difference, but it's there and it builds and it does something. All these layers create depth and a little more realism. Otherwise, you could just come up with some color that looks like the finished doll and just paint that on, and that would be all you have to do. But that would be flat and it wouldn't look as real to me. Anyway, that's my take on it. I sat down over a long period of time of figuring out. I wanted to create a process by which I could follow every time and make my doll equally beautiful every time. Because before that, when I was making my paints in the little round tray with the little wells in it, you know, they call it a paint palette, I think. I was mixing some different color every time because, you know, every time you have to mix paint, it's going to be a little different from before. And mixing that tiny amount, and then let's say you did, and you run out, then you have to mix more, and it won't be the same color that you mixed the first time, and then you have 3 limbs, one color, and 1 limb is a little bit darker, a little bit lighter. So I wanted to have a lot of paint. So I got me these jars, and I proceeded to mix my paint. Every time I mixed it, I tweaked it a little. Like, okay, I'm gonna make it a little darker because that was too light. Oops, that's a little too dark. I'll make it a little bit lighter until I figured it out. You just figure it out. And you do it by putting the paint on your trial kit. You just get, Bountiful Baby runs sales all the time, $19.95. Sometimes you can get an artist kit for $17 or $16, and that is extremely cheap. It might be a second, but if it's your trial kit, why does it matter? So you order one and seal it, bake it 2 times after you seal, and then you proceed to test your paint on that. You want to know how it's going to look on a doll? Put it on a doll. And bake it and everything if you want to. You don't have to do the whole doll, just do 1 limb, because you're going to strip it over and over again until you can't use it anymore. You want to get all the use out of your test kit that you can before you scrap it, because that's what's going to happen to it, is you're going to scrap it. Sometimes I just use the head and I save the limbs. And the reason I do that is because, well, later you could use the limbs if you needed to, but if you don't need to, I don't hardly ever use my test kit anymore, but you know, when you're new, you're going to use it a lot. And sometimes I just use the head, and then the limbs I save for, like a doll that has limbs that you don't like. And some dolls come with 3/4 limbs. What that really just means is they've sort of not, they wouldn't have this little hip area right here. It would just be cut off about right there and have the flange right there. And the upper part of their leg on the body would be cloth. And some people don't like that, so they switch the limbs. Also, there's Emmy, which is a Bountiful Baby kit, and she's got 1/4 limbs. She's only got little hands and feet. And she has to take this funky looking cloth body that's almost a cuddle body. I dislike that wholeheartedly, so I change her limbs when I make her. I just got finished making one of her recently. I didn't make her on camera because it just takes too long to make every single doll on camera. You have to go slower, you have to explain things. And so while one doll's baking, like I'll put this doll in the oven, I'm pulling out another doll and I'm doing the same thing to it in the meantime. And so some dolls get made off camera. But I made Emmy, and I didn't want her to have those little 1/4 limbs. I don't like them. And I don't like trying to put that body together. You have to stuff the long arms and the long legs, and it's just ugly. And then the clothes don't fit right because they just are just too clothy. And so I just changed the limbs. So that's one thing you can do when you're getting your test kit. You can, we're going to do plenty of pouncing on this limb to make sure it's smooth and doesn't have any puddly looks into it. We want a nice smooth skin tone. That's one thing you can do when you get your test kit out, is just use the head. And you do anything testy you want to do before you do it on a doll, you do it to your test kit. Like, I want to try to make peeping eyes. It's something that the more experienced artists than me, or people with steadier hands maybe than me, do. They take a closed-eyed doll and they cut a tiny portion out of their eyelid so that there's an opening to the inside of the head, and they put eyes in there. And you can barely, it would be like if we took Ashley and just sliced her eyes open where these eyelid slits are, and then just removed the tiniest little portion, a sliver. But you have to have a really steady hand, because I just made a horrible big gashing cut on my test kit, and of course it didn't look good, so I couldn't use it. I was going to try to see if I could do peeping eyes before I did it on a doll, and I couldn't. So scrap that idea. But I tried it out on my test kit first, and so I have a test kit up there. I demonstrated pencil and hair on it. I need to strip it. I also have Pearl. I cut her face completely off of her head so that I could show people how eyes are inserted. She's an open-eyed doll. She comes sleeping and open-eyed, but I got the open-eyed. At the time, I had several pearls, and I thought I could, waste one. I always try to get a cheap kit to do the testing on. But you want to be careful what kit you get. You don't want to get one of those Chinese kits. They are very gray. You want the kit to be about the same color as the dolls you're going to be reborning. Those gray, darker kits come out really, really dark, and if you test something on there, you're going to have a different color than what you would have if you tested it on a peachy doll like this. So if you're going to be making, let's say you've decided Bountiful Baby has great prices, I'm going to be making their kits. You're going to want to get a test kit from Bountiful Baby, because their kits are pretty much the right color anyway. Even if you don't want to make Bountiful Babies, some people want to make these highly expensive kits. I can't see myself paying that much money for a kit. But they do it. They pay hundreds of dollars for them, and sometimes all they get's a head. I don't know. But and they make a cuddle out of it. Evidently, there must be some sort of a market for cuddles. I don't know. I never could sell the cuddles I made. Nobody wanted cuddles. I ended up taking them off the cuddle body and giving them some limbs. One time, Bountiful Baby had a real nice sale on some limbs, and they were just, random, like Anna limbs or Quinn or Owen or whoever they just had limbs for. Sometimes if there's a flaw in the head, they'll just scrap that head, and they'll use the limbs. They'll just keep the limbs, and when they get a bunch of spare limbs, they'll have a limb sale, and they'll put them up for sale, and you can get a set of limbs for not too much money. Now, when they're not on sale, they're kind of expensive, because they don't really want you to get spare parts and start putting dolls together for cheaper than you can buy a kit. So they make them kind of expensive. But at this one time, I don't know, I've had moments where I'd have a kit and there'd be a flaw in the head, and if you tell them, they'll send you a replacement head. Well, that leaves them with some limbs that they don't send you the whole kit, they just send you the head. So that leaves them with spare limbs. So, there's spare limbs, and if they do it for a lot of different babies at one time or another, anybody that manufactures a lot of dolls like that, there's going to be some dolls that have flaws in them. You just can't help it. I'm going to now paint her lips and her nails again. Anyway, they put a bunch of heads on a big sale. I mean, they were a huge sale. Usually a head is $35. And they put them on sale for I think they were $8.99. $8.99. And they had Darren, Christopher. They had some cute dolls, but there were about 6 different dolls. Maya, I bought 2 heads of each one. And it was my idea. I was going to make cuddles. Well, I made them, and I made cuddles out of them, and nobody wanted cuddles. Nobody likes cuddles. Once in a great while, somebody will buy a cuddle for a little kid. But selling that many cuddles, I just had too many of them. I ended up taking them off the cuddle bodies, and then later they had limbs, and it was a good buy on the limbs as well. Like, some of them were seconds, but you could not tell it. You could not tell it at all that they were seconds. Bountiful Baby has wonderful seconds. Most of the time, you can't even tell that they're seconds. And they had like Anna arms, $6.99. Anna legs, $8.99. And then another doll, Lilani. They had Lilani limbs too, and they were cheap like that. And I bought a bunch of limbs, and I have a bag of limbs in my closet over there, where I keep my kits. That if I don't like the limbs a doll has, I just change them. But I keep my limbs that I've changed from. I still have Emmy's little 1/4 limbs over there in the closet. And if I find that after a length of time goes by that I'm not using those limbs for anything, and I've decided I really don't like them, you know, every time I get out the limbs, I go through them to find ones that I think are appropriate for the doll I'm trying to switch limbs with. And if I'm just passing those limbs up every time, I'll end up putting them in a box and, you know, selling them for spare parts. And I just sold a box of spare parts just the other day. It had been up for sale for quite a while, and it had several watchers, and it was in 2 or 3 people's carts, which means there's interest, you know. But nobody was taking the plunge and buying it, and then all of a sudden, just the other day, it sold. And so that's what I do with them. I had a Maggie torso in there. I don't like making torsos. I don't like those little baby parts. I don't like doing them. They're anatomically correct. I hate that. And plus it makes the doll hard and stiff. And I made Maggie, and I liked her so much I kept her, but I didn't make her torso. I was going to make her torso and just give it to the person who bought her. I don't like putting the torsos on either, but I didn't do that. I decided not to make her torso. So there was a Maggie torso in there. I had bought a group of kits from a lady on eBay, and she wouldn't break them. And there were some kits in there I didn't want. There were 2 little 10-inch kits, and I hate doing those tiny little kits. It's too hard to paint the nails. I don't have steady hands. It's too hard to get the eyes in. It's too hard to find clothes to fit them. I just didn't want to do them. And so I put them in there too. It was 2 of them. And then there was a kind of big kit. And the lady who was selling them said, selling the kits, there was some in there I really wanted bad. So I bought the group. And I knew in my mind I was going to sell those kits. And that big kit, almost a toddler. It's not quite a toddler, but it was almost a toddler. And I didn't want to do a doll that big either, because I'm afraid they won't. 2 reasons. One is I'm afraid it won't fit in my new wave oven. And then what do you do? And 2, I didn't want to have to get, you know, if you don't sell any dolls you don't sell, you've either got to reduce them to a paltry amount to get rid of them, or you've got to donate them, or you've got to keep them. And some great big toddler doll like that, I just don't have room for it here. I just don't want to make them. I don't want to store them. I don't want to, and mailing them's harder. You have to have a bigger box. I just don't want to fool with them. So I decided I didn't want to make that kit as well. And it came with a body and everything. So I put it in there. And then there were some just little odds and ends of pieces of dolls that I didn't use, like some limbs and stuff. And I put those in there. And I thought I had a reasonable price of $100 on it. Oh, there was almost a complete Maggie in there as well. It wasn't just a torso, it was the torso and the arms, because I had given my little Maggie that I made for me to keep Celeste limbs, and they were just adorable, And so I she came with a doll I got came with those Celeste limbs, which was mismatched. She didn't have her own limbs. She had Celeste limbs, and I really, really liked them. They were just chunky and fat, and I just liked them so much, so I put them on my Maggie, and she just looked super adorable with them. And so I didn't put her torso on because they were 3/4 limbs. And while most people don't like 3/4 limbs, I don't find a problem with them. One good thing about 3/4 limbs is once you get the clothes on them, you don't even notice they're 3/4 limbs unless you're just going to sit there and stare at your baby with no clothes on. It doesn't really matter, and 3/4 limbs are much more posable. If you like to pose your doll on your bed or something, much more posable than full limbs. Full limbs pretty much just rotate up and down like this, but 3/4 limbs can go out, they can go like this, they can go in a lot of different directions, and you can pose that baby almost any way you want to because it has a joint. It's like it's jointed, and if you've never seen a 3/4 doll, the upper part of their arm is cloth, and it connects to the body with a joint, and it moves very freely and nicely within that joint, and you can pose it in multitudes of ways. But one thing you cannot do is put sleeveless clothes on your doll, or just a onesie, because the cloth legs and arms will stick out. Now some dolls have 3/4 arms and full legs, so they're a little less restrictive. But a lot of times I'll change the limbs. I just did Emmy and Emma. Emma was a Reborn, and she way back in the day, a lot of the Reborns even had 3/4 limbs. Thomas and Asher and Presley and Case and Emma and there's several others. I just can't remember their names. Oh, Clyde. And it was no big deal. Nobody cared. But now everybody's just la-la over full limbs. I don't know. They make almost all their Reborns now with full limbs. But I looked up on that Emma. She's long been sold out. I don't know why they discontinued her. But she didn't have a numbered certificate or nothing. She wasn't a limited edition or anything like that. They just discontinued her. I guess she wasn't popular. But she was one of the dolls that was in that sale where I got the kits I didn't want. And I wanted her real bad because I've been looking for an Emma for a long time. Just suddenly I noticed she wasn't there anymore. And I go, whatever happened to that doll anyway? And then when I saw her, I said, oh, gotta have that doll. Anyway, I got her, and she was reasonable, and I don't remember what I paid for that group of kits, but it was very, very reasonable. And so I jumped on it and got it, and she was one of them. I think Emmy was one of them too, and then there was a couple others. I can't remember. But anyway, we've got Ashley painted again, and she's going to go back in the oven and get a bake. And then when we come back, she'll be ready for her next coat of paint, which is a different color. It's going to be warm blush. So we'll put away our little sponges for this color, and we'll get out our sponges for the next color. And when we come back, we will paint her that color. It's almost that color right there. That's just not quite it, but it's almost that color. And then after that, she'll get another bake, and then she'll get her last color, which is all over red blush. See, this is the color we'll be using next. It's just a blush color. It's called warm blush. And then this one is the cool blush. It's just lip nails blush. It's what it's called. And it's for doing lips and nails, of course, and for blushing your baby. That's what we use to blush her face and her hands and her feet and stuff, was this color right here. That's what I dip my brushes in and let them sit and dry. I only ever use dry painting on enhancements and undertones. I use this color, I use purple, and I use blue. I don't use any other colors in dry painting. because if you tried to paint an entire doll with dry brushes, you'd have to have about 1,000 brushes. You saw how many I used just to do her enhancements. And that's just, it's not even funny how many it was. I'm constantly having to, I guess if I had to say which one I used the most of, it would be this color. I mixed all of these at the same time, but you see this one's running out way quick because I use a lot of it. Anyway, enough said. We're going to get her in and get her baked. We have a couple more colors to go, and then she'll be ready to start getting her eyelash. Well, I don't put eyelashes on until after the hair is rooted because they just get mashed up. But she'll be ready to get her pacifier magnet. She'll be ready to start getting her hair and stuff like that. And eyelashes are the last thing I do because, like I said, you don't want them to get mashed up. And if she had eyes, she'd get her eyes then too, but she don't, so she won't be getting any eyes. But I have 2 more dolls up here that need hair. Plus, I root in my bedroom because I don't like hair on my table here. I have a table in there and I root in there. Anyway, I have one in there that I'm working on. I have one I just finished on. I have 2 more waiting to get hair, and by the time I get them rooted, I'll have probably 3 more heads ready for hair. I kind of wasted today. I didn't feel real good, and so I didn't work on dolls as like I usually do. But if I start early in the morning and work till about this time, it's probably 6:30, I can usually get a doll completely finished in one day. If you just keep at it, bake, cool, go to the next thing, bake, cool, go to the next thing, and you can get it done. You just have to keep going. And once you get all finished painting the doll, I put glue on the rims here. It's shiny glue called Eileen's Paper Glaze. It's the only kind you need to put on these rims. Mod Podge won't work, Elmer's glue won't work, no other kind of glue. Some people use super glue, but it's super expensive. Eileen's Paper Glaze, you get a bottle this size right here. It's 2 ounces, and it's about $7. But I get it on sale when Bountiful Baby has their site-wide sale for 40% off, and so I pay $3 or $4 for it. And I get 2 or 3 bottles at one time because it's a long time before they have another site-wide sale. And I put it in a little jar like this right here. This is my clear glue right here. It doesn't look clear, but it dries absolutely shiny clear. And it's also what I put on the lips and the nails to make them shiny. I'll show you a doll. This is Charla. She's not the prettiest doll in the world, but she's got a shiny rim. You can see that it's very, very shiny right here. And that makes the body, when you're trying to turn the head, it makes the body slip really, really well within the zip tie. The zip tie slip on the rim, so that you don't need to use rings. Rings are expensive, and you can put this glue on the doll for pennies, literally pennies. This 1 jar of glue is one package of the glue and I've been using it already on quite a number of dolls, and you can't even tell any's missing. But it's very economical to use, very easy to use. You don't have to worry about that your doll won't turn within the socket, the arm socket or the neck hole, and you don't have to spend $5 on rings. They're about 99 cents a piece, depending on the size. And then plugs also, you don't need those either. But anyway, I made a whole video on what you need to make dolls. It's Liam's part 1. It was a series I did on how to make dolls from start to finish. A following video. This one's not that much of a following video. This one's just me making a doll and you watching me. But those were actually tutorials, and it was a 3 doll series, and Liam was the first doll I made. And the first video we covered things that you need to make a doll, and then the second video we covered mixing paint, and then we started working on Liam, and then after that we did an open-eyed doll. Liam was bald, the second doll had penciled hair, and Marissa was the third doll, and she had rooted hair. And we covered all the, everything to do and what steps to do and what order and everything, and super explaining all that stuff. So if you haven't watched that video, well, that series, it's 3 series of videos. It's under, I think it's called Follow Along With Me or something like that. It's a playlist of all the videos together. And if you haven't watched that series, it's very informative. You can watch it first and then go back and follow it, or whatever. Some people just want to watch them and get ideas. That's okay too, but it's very, very informative and easy to follow. And that's what I do, easy to follow videos. But anyway, we're going to get Ashley in the oven and get her baked. And when we come back, we will do the next color. I'm one of those stick-to-it people, so it'll probably be this. It'll probably be tonight. I probably won't wait till tomorrow. So anyway, I'm going to ask everybody to please like, subscribe, and share. It helps my channel out. It helps me out. And happy reborning.